with a view from sitting on the fence. This is Old Mate's non-tech channel. Hey, how are we? Sitting on the fence here at Old Mate's non-tech channel for a Thursday rant. And a very... I'm furious. We're staring down the barrel of another lockdown in this state due to a hotel quarantine bungle in South Australia that's then led to a outbreak here, particularly in Melbourne. And my Melbourne viewers, all I can say is you poor bastards. And the likelihood the whole state is plunged into another lockdown. We've had more than 12 months to get this right, and we can't do it in this state. It's no wonder the country laughs at us. We have an inept government, we have an inept Department of Health that still can't get contact tracing right. The Supreme Leader, aka the dictator, is still on leave, at least until the middle of next month apparently. So his whipping boy, the lackey, the Education Minister and Deputy Premier, James Merlino, who is reading from the Daniel Andrews script, the written and authorised by the Supreme Leader, the Dictator of Victoria, word for word, mind you. Absolutely word for word. Because exactly the same phrases are being used in exactly the same way Andrews does it. We've got a major outbreak in Melbourne due to the DHS completely botching up where a person went. Somehow they managed to fuck up the difference between Epping and Epping North Woolworths. You got the CHO backing the Department of Health, and yet the public's made to feel like we've done the wrong thing again. We're going to have, I don't get it. Why can't we do it right in this state? What the fuck are we doing wrong? Now, okay, yeah, most people will probably say, oh, you're Victorians, you can't do anything right. Well, I'd agree with you. Over the last 12 to 18 months, you're right, we can't do anything right. And yet again, here we go again. Victoria, first cab off the rank, another massive lockdown. We've had more lockdowns in this state than the country's had. With the highest infectivity in the country, the worst death toll. Government doesn't seem too worried. The other thing I noticed too, now yesterday I sat down to watch Premier Marshall's press conference in South Australia about shutting the border to Melbourne. And their police commissioner was adamant Melbourne and not Victoria, unlike Mark McGowan, who shut the door to Victoria because the stupid prick can't tell the difference between Melbourne and regional Victoria. He just assumes Melbourne is the whole of Victoria. You get hay fever in Victoria and Mark McGowan will shut the border. And I'm a hay fever sufferer. I'm also a smoker, as you guys all know. So my cough and runny nose mimics COVID beautifully. So if I did go to WA and I had a cough or a sniffle, Mark McGowan immediately would shut the border, because that's what he does. He also has no faith in his contact tracing. Clearly neither do we. Steve, the Premier of South Australia, Marshall, what's his name? Stephen Marshall or something, also said the same thing that Daniel Andrews, Anastasia Palaszczuk, Gladys Berejiklian and Mark McGowan, as well as the Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, whose name escapes me at the moment, along with, I believe, the Premier of Tasmania, has all said the same thing. Our state is the envy of the world. We have the gold standard. Every single... What? So, Marshall says it, Berejiklian says it, Palaszczuk says it, McGowan says it, We're the envy of the country and the envy of the world. What? Huh? That's impossible. I think it's getting to the point now where politicians are just lying through their teeth more so now than ever to effectively their bosses, the public. Although in Victoria the boss is China, we all know that. The CCP tells Daniel Andrews exactly what to do and say. I just can't believe it. I was watching the news conference yesterday, and Premier Marshall and the SA Pol, or Police Commissioner, Chief Commissioner of Police South Australia, were very adamant to say this does not affect regional Victoria at all. And so far, other than the couple of issues in central Victoria, so Bendigo and that, regional Victoria is doing fine. And with our close proximity to Melbourne, we're also seem to have avoided it, at least at this stage. But he blatantly said, we've got the gold standard. The world is jealous of South Australia. We have done it right. That's what Daniel Andrews has said. That's what Gladys has said. That's what Anastasia's said. They've all said the same thing. What, are they all copying each other's notes and lying to the public? Give me a break. There's only one state in this entire country that's managed to do things right, and that's New South Wales. Clearly. We can't, Daniel Andrews, or we have the gold standard of hotel quarantine and contact tracing. The DHS fucked up. And the public's going to yet again pay for the DHS fuck up. And we're going to be made to feel terrible because we're going into lockdown because of the government and the ineptitude of the Department of Health with this absolute stuff up with this case from South Australia into Victoria. My Melbourne viewers, look, I'm still a Melburnian at heart. I always will be. And this is going to do more economic damage, which obviously means the government's going to have to increase taxes more. The problem now is there's no federal government lifeline. It's all finished. Now, the federal government has said that they'll increase the GST for Victoria. I don't think so. The feds can't do anything. If Melbourne goes into a 5-day or longer snap lockdown, which will be a full stage 4, possibly stage 5, although I don't know what stage 5 would look like. They have intimated that in the past. I think that would end up looking something like what London was. The economic toll will be massive. The government doesn't seem worried though. Brett Sutton, who's Victoria's Chief Health Officer, publicly says that he doesn't want to put the state into lockdown. Privately though, conversations are he likes lockdowns. How can he back the DHS? If we've got so many contact tracers, how come they fuck this up? How can they screw up Epping and Epping North? How can they not have known the difference? How can you muck up when someone tells you exactly which Woolies? How can you not tell the difference? The economic damage is going to be massive if they put Melbourne into lockdown. There is the possibility, and it is rumoured, it'll be the state. That'll do it. If we go into another lockdown, the government, the state government budget was handed down a week or two ago, and it's massively taxing. They're just taxing everything. Anyone and everyone they can tax, they're taxing. Okay? Here's a question. You shut down the state for 5 days with no lifelines, with no federal government lifeline. How do you expect businesses and homeowners to pay your increase in taxes? You can't. Now, it makes me wonder if they fully grasp not just the economic damage, but the confidence damage. Melbourne was just getting going again. So was Victoria. Now, if they plunge the whole state into initially a 5-day, it could be a full 14. That's the rumour, at least. That's going to kill the state. Now, clearly, we have an election next year. Right? Now, I can guarantee you the line Labor will use. I guarantee it. We kept Victoria safe through COVID. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you're going to find they're not going to be able to say something like that because they didn't keep Victoria safe. They botched everything. We botched hotel quarantine. We've botched contact tracing. Everything the government can stuff up, they have. And then it's the public that wears the blame. And we wear the consequences of the government stuff up. Right? Here's the other thing. When this cluster in Wollert exploded through Melbourne's northern suburbs, and they said everyone get tested, they hadn't stood up anything. People are being turned away from testing sites because testing sites are full. What, the government didn't foreshadow huge numbers of testing? The feds are only giving us 130,000 doses of what's his name. It's just, I mean, how can a state like Victoria become the laughing stock of the country? Simple. We have an inept government. We have an inept DHS. We have an inept Treasury. VicPol haven't got the thingos to start shutting roads off. So Queensland can shut the border to New South Wales like that. We can't even shut the border between regional Victoria and Metro Melbourne like that. Right? You can't do it. Why? Because the reactionary stance that the state government takes. That's all it is. And yet, the public bears the brunt of government fuck up again. And no one seems worried. The I stand with Dan people don't seem concerned that the government's botched this all up. I mean, the fact that regional Victoria occasionally has to pay for a Melbourne fuck-up, it's not right. Why put the whole state into feeling like it's their fault? Now, my international viewers may not be aware. My Aussie viewers and definitely my Victorian viewers, we know this. The Wollert case came out of a screw-up in South Australia. Contact tracing stuffed up. They got out too late. They botched up which Woolies it was. And now it's gone right through the whole of Metro Melbourne, as far out as Axedale and Bendigo. Because of the inept ability for our contact tracers to figure out differences. To figure out that the Woolies he was talking about was not Epping, was Epping North. It took a bank statement to figure that out. How have we made such a mess of this? How come Victoria still can't get this right? Because our government and our bureaucrats are all idiots. The other thing too, okay, the faceless experts. Okay, now these are the experts that the state governments around Australia rely on. They're faceless though. Right, you watch any news conference, the only people you will see at a COVID news conference are the leader of the state, the Premier, Labor or Liberal, depending on what, around the country. The Chief Health Officer of each state, and possibly a COVID commander. How come we never hear from the experts, the faceless people? Right now, the Doherty Institute here in Melbourne is the one guiding the government, but I don't believe the government is. I believe the government is twisting what they're being told. But every government does that to suit its own agenda. Okay. Now, why is it that the Department of Health medical experts are faceless? Simple. They're academics. They cannot relate to the general public. Some of them, like here in Victoria, some of them are former GPs and medical practitioners. The rest of them are academics. Okay, so they look at the numbers rather than the physical, the physical effect. They look at the academia side of things, the science, in other words. But what the thing is, what concerns me, and I've said this before, I've said it on Twitter and everything, I guarantee you not a single medical expert has got any idea how to fix public confidence or the economy. Because I've put the scenario in play before, and I doubt anyone can actually give the right answer here, okay? A country gets completely vaccinated against this bullshit. All right, completely vaccinated. Okay? Now, let's just say, for example, this thing runs out. I guarantee you every single medical expert, every single medical academic goes into hiding and leaves the public to pick up the pieces. Why? Because they don't get the fallout of what they're doing. They look at the medical side of it, so they've got the blinkers on. They get this shit done, and then they go, well, our job's done. We don't need to do anything else. Oh, what? Your lives are stuffed? Not my fault. Question. Medical people are supposed to help you, are they not? They're supposed to help repair the damage. Does that not include social confidence and economic damage? Not in their eyes, it doesn't. No. Brett Sutton's been asked this before here in Victoria. How do you propose to help build public confidence to get the state going again? And he just went, I can't answer that. That's for the Treasury. You're a freaking doctor. You're a professor of medicine. Are you seriously saying you've got no idea how to help the public rebuild public confidence, social events, and economics? How to get the job market going again? No, of course they're not. Because they don't see that as their fault. Their thing is get the health crisis done, and then do this, right? Our job's done, we'll walk away. If the numbers are bad this morning, Melbourne will be in a lockdown today. Okay. Definitely 5 days. Could be 14, could be 28. The economic damage is going to be catastrophic. A second lockdown inside 6 months. You're not going to be able to get the economy going that quick. The other thing is, the Victorian public was just getting its confidence back. Businesses were starting to move, and now this is going to happen. And you've got a government taxing the crap out of everybody. It's typical Labor. You tax. All right. The way the government's going to get the Victorian budget back into some sort of operational status is just to tax the shit out of everybody. Tax rates are going up. Rego's going, everything's going up. My problem is, and I've said this before, everyone is worried about the health problem, and yes, there is a health problem. But at the end of the health problem, one argument is, if you don't solve the health problem, you can't solve the economic problem. Fair point. You won't have an economy. But unless you actually forward think and sit there and say, right, this is obviously the government's going to realise the economic fallout of this is going to be catastrophic. But again, they don't seem to have a plan to help the public afterwards. It's sort of like this, you know. You go into a lockdown, you shut the whole joint down. Then you say, right, well, we've got this, we've broken its back, now we'll reopen. How do we reopen? Oh, crap, we haven't come up with a plan. Let's write one down on the back of a piece of A4 paper and then tell the public. That's just the way government works these days. Right? So the idea is, and we saw it here in Victoria back in Feb, whole place gets shut down. Right? No idea how to reopen until 24 hours beforehand. 12 hours beforehand, the government comes out and goes, oh, well, we'll just go straight backwards. That's your plan? Well, you come out of lockdown and you just say, right, well, we'll revert back to what we were a week ago. That's the plan, is it? You fucking idiots. That's not a plan. Because by the time it reverts out, most people are there coming out of a freaking four walls of their homes going, now what the fuck do we do? And this is the problem with the medical people. I guarantee you, I would guarantee you, there would be nothing more that the WHO would love to do than shut the globe down for the next 28 days. Lock everyone under martial law in their homes and only allow them to go to the, supermarket or something. Right? That'd be great. But again, the WHO doesn't get the economics of it either. And this is the problem. You have all these medical experts who just want to just get this over and done with, but they don't then have a plan to rebuild the economy because they see it as like, well, we're only worried about the medical side of it. The economy, oh, fuck, let the public deal with that, not our problem. Well, it actually is, because you're supposed to help repair the damage. That's what a doctor does. A doctor heals you. You can't just say, right, well, the medical problem's over, I'm no longer needed. Well, yeah, you are. Because you've got to be responsible for helping the public rebuild public confidence and get the economy going again. Oh, no, I know nothing about economics. You don't have to know about it. Brett Sutton has continuously said he is not happy with the way Victoria's been going. Even with the testing numbers, he hasn't been happy. Neither's frickin' Weimar. And yet, this happens. And you got Sutton praising the DHS. You're fucking kidding me. They botched it. By 9 o'clock, 9:30 this morning, so, I don't know, hour and a quarter, hour and a half or so, the numbers will be out and we will be in a lockdown. Whether it's Melbourne or the whole state. And the problem is the economic damage. There's no life support now. There's no job keeper for Victorian businesses. The feds have cut that off. They can't even restart it. So many businesses and employees are going to go without pay for a whole week if the place gets shut down. And I don't think the DHS or the medical expert panel realise the economic damage it will do. Home loans, rent, bills, a week's worth of pay for some people. The utility companies are not going to care. The banks aren't going to care. Well, it's only a week. The damage this will do is phenomenal, and there is no lifeline from the feds. And the feds can't restart it. That's not true. They could restart it. But with politics, we know restarting something takes a long time. Weeks. It's fucking ridiculous. Hang on a tick. Sorry about that. Even if they could restart it in a day or two, the money's not there to instantly start feeding into bank accounts. And I get shitty that the Victorian government makes the public pay for their own inept handling, and the DHS, you know, if they were able to, they'd blame the public or the bank for this fuck up. There are comments being made about the place of, did the DHS get this in time? Well, clearly they didn't. They didn't contact everybody in time. If we've got such a massive contact tracing team like the government keeps lying to us about, how'd they fuck this up? How? At minimum, this will be 5 days. It could be a month. And the feds aren't even ready for this. There's no job keeper. There's no more job seeker. There's no money in the federal bank account to bail out Victoria. And I can guarantee you conversations were had last night with Canberra for money. For the feds to bail the state out again. I don't know. I give up. You know, this state can't do it. We've proven that. Sure, we're beating the rest of the country in vaccinations, but that's not the government. That's us. That's the public. And the other thing I was going to mention too, guys, this stage rollout bullshit that the feds are doing, you know what should have happened, right? What should have happened was get as much Pfizer in, get frontline, border force, aged care done, get them out of the road. Then open the fucking floodgates. Stop doing this, you know, over 65, over 60, over 55, over 50. And then wait, you know, and then 40 and over. Get border force, frontline health, aged care done. Then you should have just opened the bloody floodgates. And as for Europe blocking Pfizer, right, as for France and Italy cracking the shits, right, oh, Australia doesn't need it. Hey, Italy, hey, France, look at Victoria. Look at Victoria. Look at Australia now. We didn't need it? Idiots. I just, you know, this will damage the state, and the government is not going to be able to fix this damage. And if they are, they're not going to be able to do it fast. And I think confidence, my personal point of view, I have no confidence in the DHS, Department of Health here in Victoria. I have no confidence in them. I have no confidence in the government. Mind you, I have no confidence in the Liberals either. Even though I'm a Liberal voter, the Liberals are as weak as shit. Michael O'Brien is gutless. He's just got nothing in the tank. And the DHS clearly can't do this right. Gold standard? You lying sons of bitches. We don't have the... If we had the gold standard, explain why we've got over 22,000 infections. Or thereabouts. Why we've got in excess of 800 deaths. Because you allowed minority groups to go ahead with certain activities and then blame us for the rest of it. I have no confidence in this government. I have no confidence in the Department of Health. And the Treasury, really? Just tax the crap out of everybody? If this is what we are being told here in this state, it'll be a 14 or 28 day snap shutdown. And that is going to break Victoria. Whether it breaks Melbourne or the whole state. Where I live now, metropolitan Geelong, is still recovering. We're one of the slowest parts of the country to still be recovering. I got a scenario, all right? We know Mark McGowan in WA any time a suburb of a city around the country has an outbreak, he shuts the border. Now, he has no confidence in his contact tracing team. That's been made evident. All right, he's almost had as many lockdowns as Victoria's had now. Okay? I guarantee you, and I can see it, let's say a suburb of Perth has an outbreak, and either us, New South, or South Australia immediately shut the border to the whole of Perth and the other area, what's it called, Perth and Peel regions, right? I guarantee you Mark McGowan would lose his shit. You know why? Because he would see it as, why are you shutting the border instantly? The minute we had this outbreak in Melbourne, Mark McGowan hit the panic button. But if it was role reversed, he would not be impressed with South Australia, Victoria, or New South Wales. He would not be impressed that the hard border went straight in, because he'd be like, oh, it's an overreaction. And yet, when we had 4 cases in Melbourne, he's hit the panic button. But anyway, I just think this is going to, this will play out real bad. This is going to play out bad. The sectoria will come back again. There'll be those around the country that belittle this state. So we're going to be the whipping boys again in some case. We're going to be the whipping boy, or whatever it is, whipping child or something. Again, by certain members of the Australian community. Ha ha, look at Victoria, they're all fucked again. You'll have some politicians around the state ripping on the public, blaming the public because the government blames the public. This time, though, this is a government fuck-up on both sides of the Victorian-South Australian border. And yet, the South Australian report came out and said, yeah, we stuffed it up. That's our fault. We did not monitor the situation fully. Okay? But our DHS can't do anything right. We can't do it. We've proven it. And this open air facility they want to build either at Avalon or Mickleham, they want the feds to build it and us run it. If we can't run hotel quarantine, how the fuck are we going to run an outdoor quarantine facility? We've proven time and time again in this state we can't do it. The public can get it right. The government can't do it. All right? It is exactly a day this time last year we went into our massive lockdown. I bet you I know what's going to happen. I'll lay your London to a brick. This is not going to be a 7-day, 5-day snap lockdown. This will go harder. And the public's going to have to bear the brunt of another Victorian government and Victorian bureaucratic fuck-up. There's also been an investigation launched into the head of hotel quarantine after he hired 2 fitness experts and promoted them to 2 $100,000 a year jobs. You fucking hell. And then we find out Unified Security's now under criminal investigation, and the government's all of a sudden said, oh, we've got nothing to do with that. You hired them, you idiots. Vic Pol won't talk. There's this there's this sense of silence around the whole fuck up here in Victoria. Mark McGowan in WA laughing at the government. South Australia worried because of the border between us and South Australia and New South Wales and us. Gladys Berejiklian's worried about the public. South Australia's worried about the economic. And Victoria, welcome to the arse end of Australia. Welcome to the only state in the entire country that can't do it right. But having said that, look at both sides of the political aisle in this state. You've got a Chinese-centric government. It's a really socialist, far left-wing socialism. You've got a Liberal National Party here in Victoria that can't get a foot in the door because the leader's as weak as piss. Okay? Can't seem to get the message out. You've got a bureaucracy fuck up. You've got a medical expert science panel that's faceless. You can't even get in touch with them. They're not even wanting to talk to anybody. Victoria's chief medical officer, the chief health officer is banned from some radio programs. You've got a bureaucracy that's as big as Canberra. You've got advisors around both the Supreme Leader and his lackey boy that are numbered twice or three times more than Morrison's got around him. And you've got minority groups getting away with stuff in this state. And what do? What the fuck? What? Like, this has been mentioned before. A couple of times. Right. If we were the board of a business, of a private company, and the government was the board of directors, the shareholders would have called an extraordinary AGM and booted the board then and there. This time last year. Would have sacked the entire operation. You don't get that in public life. You get 3 or 4 years. And in that 3 or 4 years, you can make as much of a mess as you want. Now, I don't know about metropolitan Melbourne, but I do know that a lot of people in regional Victoria are fed up with the way the government handles this situation. And regional Victoria bears the brunt of a Melbourne fuck-up. Now, I still love my hometown. I always will love my hometown. But Jesus, living in regional Victoria, I look at Melbourne and I think to myself, what the fuck happened up there? What happened to my beautiful hometown? What happened to the world's most livable city? Simple. Daniel Andrews. Daniel Andrews and the left-wing part of the ALP. That's what happened. And if we ever recover from it, the city will never be the same. It's fucking ridiculous. You know, you get all these fucking people, and the thing is, you're basically going to shut the city down again. There's no economic lifeline. If we go into a 1 month stage 4 hard shutdown statewide, and there's no money coming in, if the feds don't do something real quick, I don't think it'll be an economic recession in Victoria. It could be a depression. And that is harder to recover from than a recession. If we go into more than a 5-day lockdown in the state, there's no lifeline from the feds. The feds can't move quick enough. And the new taxes the government introduced, people aren't going to have the money for them. And this is the problem. This is what I've been worried about, and no one seems to get it. You accept the health problem. The minute you get the health problem under control, your first priority should be to get confidence up. And the medical expert panel here in Victoria doesn't get that. Brett Sutton doesn't understand. The only way to get the economy going is to get people encouraging, to get them moving. Not just to sit there and go, right, well, we're in restrictions at 6 p.m. tonight. Well, hang on. That doesn't work. You can't sit there and shut the state down, and the day you release it, you say, right, well, 6 p.m. restrictions revert. What, you just expect businesses to go, right, well, 6 p.m. we're off and racing. No, that's not confidence. That is, I don't know what to say because I don't understand the economy. Yes, we've got a medical problem, but at the same time, why is no one in the medical fraternity looking at the economic damage and then helping the public with it, because they're all academics, they're all bureaucrats. They don't live in the real world. Okay? None of them. You name a bureaucrat who lives in the real world. None of them. Because the minute you get a GP into the bureaucracy and the academics, they lose touch with reality. Every bureaucrat does it. And so does every politician. Anyway, this will be a disaster. And I'll say one thing to my Victorian viewers. It's up to us to rebuild this state, because the government can't do it. The Department of Health can't do it. The federal government can't do it. We, the public, have got to do it. We, the public, are the ones that are going to be left dragging this. And if we don't get the ball and chain off us quick enough, this state is not going to be in a recession. It's going to be in a depression. Because right now, with the size of the Victorian debt, and the government doesn't seem too concerned, just tax the public. That's how the Labor government works. You got a problem with the budget, just tax the shit out of them. Really? If the lockdown lasts, say 14 days or more, say the hard lockdown was 28 days, a full stage 4, 28 day shutdown. The feds can't move fast enough. Other states are going to get aggro, because if the feds start to bail Victoria out, every other state is going to be wanting to bail out. So there's no federal lifeline. The Labor government can't afford to reimburse businesses that are about to lose a fuckload of cash. And yet, I guarantee it, if we go into a lockdown and the lockdown is finished in 5 days, Brett Sutton and his academic pricks are going to sit there and go, well, what do you want us to do about the economy? That's not our responsibility. That's your responsibility. You deal with it. That's what happens in this state. We come out of a lockdown. The medical expert panel and Brett Sutton sit there and say, we've got it, we've done it, we're good, we've got everything. Thank you to the contact tracers. What about the fucking public, you arrogant prick? What about those people whose businesses have been shut down? What about the people whose jobs have been put on hold? No, I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about them. No. The bureaucracy's done everything. So now what do you want us to do? Oh, I don't know. That's up to the government. Yeah. It's typical, though. It's typical of academics. It's typical of bureaucracy. They don't live in the real world. They don't get the damage. They're starting up here in Victoria another infectious diseases hospital. For the first time. You fucktards. We had Fairfield Infectious Diseases Hospital back in the 80s. This is not Victoria's first infectious diseases hospital. It's the second one. I just, I can't fathom how the fuck this state can't do anything right. We were a powerhouse of the Australian economy. And then we got Daniel Andrews. And then we got into bed with China. Do you know, some of the materials being supplied for the major infrastructure here in Victoria are out of China and they don't meet the Australian standard? And the government's not worried? Did you know that the new trains that are supposed to be on Melbourne's train network are all made in China and just assembled here in Victoria, and they're not working because they're not built to the right standards and they're having to be retrofitted with stuff? I'm going to say something here. Okay? I don't care if people don't agree with this. I have no problem with the Yanks storing more ballistic missiles here. I have no problem with the Yanks and Australia getting closer together, economically and security-wise. I have no problem. I also have no problem with the fact that we should be looking after ourselves here in this country before we start looking after other countries. That might be a little bit of nationalism, but I think the federal government's right. We are a liberal, democratic nation, and no dictatorial country is going to make us change. Even though Daniel Andrews would love nothing more than for Australia to become a proxy state of China because of his close ties with the CCP. And that's been made evident on a number of occasions. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. And we're fucked in this state, and we're fucked again because of the government and the Department of Health.